He told me he was traveling for work again. Said the conference was out of town. That he'd be gone for 3 days, maybe 4 if the client needed more time. I nodded, smiled, and wished him luck. I even packed his bag. Kissed him goodbye at the door. Watched him pull out of the driveway with that same confident smile he always wore when he thought he was being clever. But something didn't feel right this time. Not like the other trips. His cologne wasn't the same. His energy was different. And when he hugged me that morning, it felt distant. Mechanical. Like it was just part of the routine, something to keep me quiet, unquestioning. I stood there in the doorway for a few minutes after he left, heart pounding. And then I noticed it, his travel bag, tossed in the back seat. Still zipped. Still full. I watched the taillights fade around the corner and realized something I never wanted to admit. He wasn't going on a business trip. He was going somewhere else. To someone else. For hours I just sat there, trying to convince myself I was wrong. That I was overthinking it. That I was just being insecure. But deep down, I knew better. Because this wasn't new. It was just the first time I let myself see it clearly. The late-night calls. The sudden weekend trips. The strange credit card charges he claimed were mistakes. It had been there all along. I went upstairs and checked his drawer. The key was missing. The beach house. Our beach house. The one we hadn't visited in over a year. He said it was too far. That the repairs were too expensive. That we'd go again someday, when things settled down. But I remembered something. Last month, he had mentioned driving by that area for work. Said he was in the neighborhood. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But now, every word echoed in my mind with a different tone. I grabbed my keys, my bag, and my spine. I wasn't going to wait and wonder. I needed to know. I needed to see. The drive to the coast felt longer than usual, even though it was barely 2 hours. Every exit I passed, every mile I drove, I kept thinking about the possibilities. What if I was wrong? What if he was there alone, really just trying to get away, to think? But with every turn of the wheel, that hope faded. My gut wasn't lying. It never had. I just hadn't listened. When I pulled into the driveway, the first thing I saw was his car. Parked at an angle, like he was in a rush to get inside. The lights were off, but I could see shadows through the window. Movement. 2 figures. I stepped out quietly, heart thudding in my chest. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From fury. From heartbreak. From years of swallowed doubts finally bubbling to the surface. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside. The scent hit me first, candle wax, wine, and unfamiliar perfume. Soft music played in the background. Jazz. Not his favorite. Hers, I assumed. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink, still dripping. A woman's heels by the stairs. A red silk scarf draped over the armrest. And upstairs, muffled laughter. His. I stood there in the living room, staring at the space that had once been filled with memories, lazy mornings, burnt toast, sunset kisses, and now, it was something else. A crime scene. Not with blood, but betrayal. 1,000 tiny cuts to the heart. I could have stormed up there. Could have screamed. Fought. Made a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. Because I realized something even better. He thought I didn't know. He thought he was clever. Careful. Untouchable. And that meant I had the advantage. I walked back out to my car, sat there for a moment, and pulled out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found his name, Mark. Her husband. We'd met a few times. Distantly. Politely. At company parties and awkward double dates. He was quiet. Smart. Always looked like he was thinking 10 steps ahead. I never imagined I'd be calling him like this. When he picked up, his voice was cautious. "Hello?" I breathed in. "Mark. It's me. I think you deserve to know something. And I think we need to talk." There was silence on the other end. Then a deep, slow breath. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. I told him about the wine glasses. The scarf. The laughter. I didn't hold back, and neither did he. Within an hour, he was on the road. We agreed not to confront them right away. Not like this. Not with anger clouding the moment. No, we wanted them to feel it. To see our faces when they least expected it. To know they weren't just caught, they were watched. Measured. Outplayed. We agreed on a time. A day. A setting. They wanted to use the beach house as their hideaway? Fine. We'd turn it into their reckoning. And as I sat there alone in the dark, listening to the waves crashing in the distance, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. They took our trust and turned it into a secret. We were about to turn their secret into a show. Mark arrived just after sunset. He stepped out of his car slowly, cautiously, like someone walking into a memory he didn't want to face. I met him at the edge of the porch, and for a moment, we just stood there, not speaking. He looked up at the house, then back at me. There were no questions in his eyes. Only confirmation. "They're inside?" he asked. I nodded. They were. They left about an hour ago. Probably to grab dinner before coming back. He exhaled, jaw tightening. Then we've got time. Inside, the house was still exactly as they'd left it. The candles had burned down to waxy pools. The wine glasses were now dry. The music had stopped. It was like the aftermath of a party no one wanted to admit had ever happened. Mark walked through the living room with a strange calmness. He picked up the scarf from the armrest and held it in his hands like it was evidence. Maybe to him, it was. "She wore this on our anniversary," he said, almost in a whisper. "Told me she'd lost it months ago." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Some truths didn't need commentary, they just needed silence to echo in. He turned to me. "You sure about this?" "Are you?" Mark gave a bitter smile. "I haven't been sure of anything in years. Except that she stopped looking at me like I mattered." We got to work quickly. I lit new candles, the way Daniel liked. Soft jazz, just like before. Mark helped me set the table, 2 wine glasses, 2 plates, the illusion of a romantic evening already underway. Then we dimmed the lights and waited. He stayed hidden in the guest room, door cracked just enough to see the entry. I sat in the living room with a book I didn't read and a calm I didn't feel. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they might hear it from the road. It was almost 9 p.m. when I heard the gravel crunch under tires. I stood and walked to the window, peeking between the curtains. There they were. Daniel stepped out first, grinning like a man who thought he owned the world. Lena followed close behind, laughing at something he said. She was wearing the same dress she wore to our last anniversary dinner, the one I had picked out for her. Funny how betrayal often dresses itself in borrowed things. They walked to the door slowly, casually. Like this was just another secret night, just another stolen moment. Daniel slid the key into the lock. I sat back down and waited. The door opened. They stepped inside. And then they froze. Lena gasped. Daniel's eyes widened. "Hello," I said, standing slowly. I was just getting ready for company. "How thoughtful of you to bring her." Daniel stammered. What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same." I looked at Lena. "Nice dress. Fits better than it used to." She didn't speak. Just stared, like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Before Daniel could say another word, Mark stepped out of the guest room. The moment he entered the room, the air shifted. Lena's entire body went still. Her knees buckled slightly, and she grabbed the back of the chair for support. Daniel turned to him in shock. "Mark? What the hell?" "No," Mark interrupted, voice low but steady. "You don't get to ask the questions tonight." Lena finally found her voice. "Mark, I can explain." He held up his hand. "Don't. Just, don't." Daniel looked at me, eyes darting like he was searching for a way out. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" "No," I said. "It's a lesson. You both thought you could take what wasn't yours, and do it under the roof we built together. You thought you were clever. You thought we were blind." Mark stepped forward, pulling something from his jacket pocket. A small black flash drive. "I had cameras installed last year," he said. "In our house. In the cars. And in here." He looked at Lena. "Every time you came here, every lie you whispered, recorded. Every text, every kiss. I have it all." Daniel's face went pale. Lena shook her head, tears starting to form. Why would you do that?" Mark's voice cracked slightly. "Because I knew. I just needed proof." Daniel tried to move forward, maybe to stop him, maybe to explain, but I stepped in front of him. "No," I said. "You don't get to speak. Not here. Not tonight." The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. It wrapped around all of us, thick with tension and truth. The weight of what they'd done was no longer just emotional, it was real. It lived in the walls. In the candlelight. In every wine-stained memory they had defiled. Daniel finally broke it. "I'll leave. I'll go. I never meant to." "To what?" I asked. "To get caught?" He didn't answer. Lena turned to Mark. "Please, can we talk?" Mark's eyes filled with a mix of sadness and something darker. "Talk? You want to talk now?" He looked at me, and for the first time I realized how tired he looked. Not just physically. Soul-deep exhaustion. "We got what we came for," he said quietly. "The truth." I nodded, but I didn't feel relief. Just emptiness. Daniel and Lena stood there, frozen in shame, as we walked past them and out the door. We didn't yell. We didn't fight. We simply left, with our dignity intact, and their lies burning behind us. But as we got into Mark's car and pulled away from the house that had once been sacred, I stared out at the ocean and asked myself one question. Was exposing the truth enough, or did they deserve more? The silence in Mark's car was thicker than anything that had happened inside the house. He kept both hands on the wheel, eyes focused on the road ahead, but I could see his jaw clenching. Unclenching. Over and over, like he was trying to keep something from slipping out. Maybe anger. Maybe heartbreak. Maybe both. I leaned my head against the window and watched the streetlights blur past. My hands were shaking, even though I didn't feel afraid. I felt hollow. Like everything I thought I knew had collapsed, and all that was left were the bones. "We did it," I finally said, my voice low. Mark gave a bitter little laugh. "Yeah. We did." But there was no victory in his tone. Just fatigue. He pulled into a quiet overlook by the water, one of those places where the world feels still, even if your heart isn't. He parked the car, killed the engine, and sat there in the dark, breathing hard. "I should feel better," he said. "Should feel vindicated. But all I feel is stupid." I turned to him. "You're not stupid, Mark. You were trusting. That's not the same thing." He looked at me then, really looked. "You know what hurts the most? It's not the cheating. It's not even the lies. It's realizing how long I ignored my gut because I wanted to believe she still loved me." I swallowed hard. "I know exactly what you mean." We sat there for a while. Just breathing. letting the weight settle. Two strangers connected by betrayal. By the people we loved most, and who chose to break us. Eventually, Mark reached into his glove compartment and pulled out the flash drive. "I wasn't bluffing," he said. "It's all here." I stared at the tiny thing, so small, and yet filled with so much pain. "What are you going to do with it?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "A lawyer could use it. I could ruin her professionally, socially. I could destroy her life." I nodded slowly. "And Daniel's?" He looked at me. "Do you want revenge?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. I'd spent so long trying to hold our marriage together, trying to be enough, to be strong, to be patient. And now? Now I was free. But freedom felt cold. "I want them to feel what we felt," I finally said. "I want them to remember us every time they smile. Every time they think they've moved on." Mark turned the flash drive over in his hands. "Then let's make it unforgettable." We didn't go home that night. Instead, we checked into a quiet hotel near the water. Separate rooms, same hallway. Safety and silence. Respect and distance. It wasn't about anything more than surviving the storm together. The next morning, Mark knocked on my door with coffee and a plan. "I know where they're going next," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "How?" He gave a small smile. "She put it on the shared calendar. I guess she forgot to delete me from it." I couldn't help but laugh. The irony was cruel. "They're going to a fundraising gala next weekend," he continued. "Downtown. Fancy hotel ballroom. It's a big deal. Press will be there. And, Mark said, I can have the footage sent to every major media outlet before dessert is served. Or, better yet, we walk in hand, and show the footage ourselves." I paused. "You want to go public?" He shrugged. "You said you wanted unforgettable." I thought about it. About the look on Daniel's face. The way Lena's hands trembled. About the years they stole from us. The lies. The nights we spent alone, thinking it was our fault. Maybe it was time they sat in our seats. I nodded. "Let's do it." For the next few days, we kept everything quiet. No contact. No warnings. I went back home and began packing Daniel's things into boxes. Not gently. Not angrily either. Just, mechanically. Like I was cleaning up after a guest who overstayed their welcome. He texted me once. Then twice. Then called. I didn't answer. On the fourth day, he left a voicemail. His voice was shaky, almost broken. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know what I was thinking. Please, can we talk?" I deleted it without listening to the rest. He'd had all the chances in the world to talk. Now it was my turn to speak. Mark and I met the night of the gala. I wore the black dress Daniel always said made me look powerful. He once told me I should wear it more often, but only around him. That night, I wore it for me. Mark looked sharp. Strong. Like a man who had been shattered and decided to rebuild with steel instead of glass. We walked in together. Heads turned. Even before the footage played, even before the gasps, the whispers began. And then, at exactly 8:15 p.m., the screen above the ballroom stage flickered. A voiceover began, Daniel's. Laughing. Joking. Whispering things that should never have left a bedroom. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward them, Daniel and Lena, who stood frozen in horror, red-faced, trembling. We didn't say a word. We didn't have to. Our silence was louder than any scream. When the video ended, we turned and walked away. As we reached the door, I looked back one last time. Daniel was staring at me. Not angry. Not smug. Just broken. And in that moment, I didn't feel powerful. I felt done. But as we stepped into the night, a new question whispered inside me, quiet but insistent. Was that closure, or just the beginning of something darker? The video spread faster than wildfire. By the next morning, it was everywhere: news blogs, social media, whispered office group chats. Someone at the gala had recorded the whole thing on their phone and uploaded it with the caption, "When the wife and the other husband crash the party," with receipts. It went viral in hours. Daniel's company went into PR lockdown. Lena's firm suspended her pending internal review. Their once perfect social circle, the wine nights, the rooftop brunches, the picture-perfect vacations, crumbled overnight. Mark and I stayed quiet. We watched from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with clarity. We hadn't just exposed an affair. We'd dismantled a fantasy they had built on the backs of our hearts. A world where we didn't exist. Where their lies were just background noise. Now, we were front and center. Still, I couldn't pretend I felt victorious. There were no parades for the betrayed. Just quieter mornings and echoing houses. Mark called me the day after the video hit the news. "You okay?" he asked. I paused. "I don't know. I thought I would be. I thought I'd feel lighter." He was quiet for a moment. It's hard to feel free when the chains just got heavier. I closed my eyes. "What do we do now?" He didn't have an answer. Neither did I. That night, Daniel showed up at my doorstep. I didn't let him in. He stood there with puffy eyes and an apology tumbling out of his mouth like a script he'd rehearsed. "I messed up. I made the worst mistake of my life. You don't have to forgive me, just let me explain." I didn't say a word. "You were everything," he added. But I was too stupid to see it. I thought I needed more. I didn't realize you were the more. That should have shattered me. Instead, it bored me. Because the truth was, he didn't miss me. He missed what I gave him. The stability. The loyalty. The illusion of being a good man. Without me, he was just himself. And that was the real punishment. "I don't want your apology," I said. "I want your silence." He stood there, stunned. Like no one had ever denied him before. I closed the door and didn't look back. A week passed. Then another. The buzz died down. The headlines faded. But inside me, something had shifted. One night, I got a text from Mark. "Coffee? I think I figured out what this was all about." We met at the same ocean overlook where we had sat the night we left the beach house. He brought 2 coffees and a small brown envelope. "I've been thinking," he said. "About why this happened. About why we didn't walk away sooner." I waited. "We didn't stay for them," he continued. "We stayed for the versions of ourselves we thought we were when we were with them. I stayed because I didn't want to admit I'd failed. That I'd loved someone who didn't love me back." I nodded slowly. I thought if I tried hard enough, Daniel would remember why he chose me. Mark smiled sadly. "But love shouldn't have to be a campaign." He handed me the envelope. "It's everything. The footage. The messages. The legal documents. I'm done with it. You should be too." I stared at the envelope. So many nights of crying, questioning, spiraling, sealed in paper and plastic. "What should I do with it?" I asked. "That's up to you," he said. "But if you keep it, it owns you." I looked out at the ocean, at the same crashing waves that had once made me feel so small. "I don't want to be owned anymore," I whispered. Mark reached into his coat, pulled out a lighter, and handed it to me. "You could burn it." I hesitated. Then nodded. We walked to the fire pit nearby, probably meant for laughter and marshmallows, and instead used it for ashes of the past. As the flames devoured the paper, the flash drive, the ghosts, I felt the weight lift. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was release. The fire flickered in Mark's eyes, and he looked at me with something I hadn't seen since the night we exposed them: peace. What now? I asked. He smiled faintly. Now, we start over. Whatever that looks like. We stood there, quiet, warm, alive. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt reborn. But later that night, when I got home and checked my voicemail, there was a new message. A voice I didn't recognize. Hi, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. About Daniel. He's not who you think he is. He never was. My blood ran cold. I replayed it 3 times. Same voice. Same message. And one final sentence. You're not the only one he lied to. I replayed the voicemail again, holding my breath. The woman's voice was steady, but haunted. Like she'd rehearsed the words over and over before finding the courage to speak. You're not the only one he lied to. I didn't sleep that night. Every detail from the past came crashing back: Daniel's late meetings, the quiet texts he never let me see, the trips he claimed were for work. I had already accepted the betrayal. Already exposed it. Already burned the evidence. So why did it feel like this was just the beginning? By morning, I called the number back. It rang once. Twice. Then she answered. Hello? It's me, I said, voice trembling. You left a message. A pause. Then, I wasn't sure you'd call. Who are you? My name's Maya, she said. I knew Daniel. Or. I thought I did. I just didn't know he was married. The room spun around me. What do you mean? We dated, she said. For 2 years. My knees gave out, and I sat on the edge of the bed, eyes wide. Well, we were married? She exhaled. He told me he was divorced. That his ex-wife was unstable. That she cheated on him with a friend. Said he was rebuilding his life. I covered my mouth. Nausea clawed its way up my throat. He even brought me to the beach house, she continued. Said it was his. Said he bought it after his divorce. Something didn't feel right. I couldn't breathe. He hadn't just betrayed me with Lena. There were others. So why now? I asked. Why call me? Because last week, she said, voice trembling, I saw the video from the gala. I saw you. That was when I realized. I wasn't the only one who had been lied to. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. Daniel had turned me into a villain in someone else's story. Multiple times. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a pattern. A con. Maya told me more. There was another woman before her. One who filed a complaint at his old job for inappropriate behavior, but it got buried. Paid off. And now Maya was considering going public. Not for revenge. For truth. She asked if I would help her. At first, I hesitated. I had already lit my world on fire. I had already faced the fallout. But something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who had been tricked, gaslit, rewritten out of their own lives. Yes, I told her. I'll help you. Together, we started gathering more stories. More women came forward. Women who thought they were the one, only to find out they were just another. Mark was stunned when I told him. I knew Daniel was selfish, he said. But this is pathological. He helped too, quietly. Reaching out to his contacts. Making sure Maya and the others were protected if they went public. And then, a journalist got wind of the story. Not the affair. The pattern. They ran an exposé. The many lives of Daniel Hayes, charming, dangerous, and never alone. It spread. Fast. And this time, Daniel couldn't hide. Companies backed away. Friends vanished. Even Lena, who had stuck by him for weeks, deleted her social media and moved out of state. The man who once controlled every story around him, finally lost the narrative. And I didn't want his downfall anymore. I wanted distance. So I moved. New city. New name on the mailbox. A smaller place, quieter, safer. I started writing. Not for others, just for me. To make sense of the noise in my head, the ache in my chest. Mark visited once. We walked by the lake and didn't talk about the past. We talked about now. About healing. About how sometimes survival doesn't look like strength, it looks like softness. He kissed me on the cheek before leaving. No promises. No pressure. Just peace. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, I found a small envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a photo. It was of me, laughing. Someone had taken it from across the street. My hair was blowing in the wind. I was holding a cup of coffee. It was dated 3 days ago. There was no note. Just the photo. My skin went cold. I looked around, heart pounding. The street was empty. Quiet. Too quiet. I clutched the photo and ran back inside, locking the door. Who took it? Why? Was it Daniel? A warning? A message? Or something worse? For months, I thought I had closed the book. But maybe I was just on a new page. And now I'm left with one terrifying, unanswered question. Did I survive the monster, or did I just wake it up?